Hello everybody, Mr. Odom here, and today we are going to learn how to add integers. Okay, you're going to need the following tools as always. You need a pencil, composition book, or notebook paper so that you can take notes, and you don't need a calculator for this one, but it's always good to have one handy because you never know. The learning targets for this video are, at the end of it, hopefully you'll be able to say these two things. I can add integers, and I can show that the sum of a number and its opposite is 0. So if I take a number, add it to its opposite, I will always get 0. Okay, that's a special case of adding two integers. So let's look at these key ideas. If we want to add integers with the same sign, I want you to think this. Same sign, add and keep. So if I look at this example, 2 plus 5, they're both positive. They both have the same sign. And guess what? When I add them together, I keep the sign. So if they're both positive, my answer will be positive. The same is true if I add a -2 to a -5. I get -7. So let's look at this on a number line. First, let's look at what happens. I'll put 0 right here. Here's 1, here's 2. So there's the number 2. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, and I'm adding a positive number. When I add a positive number, positive, I go this direction on the number line. And how many units am I going to go? I'm going to travel 5 units. So I'm at 2. Let me add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And where do I end up? I go from here to here, and I am at 7. Okay, let's look at this problem on a number line over here. That problem was up there. This one will be over here. So I draw a number line here again, only this time, here's where 0 is, -1, here's -2, right here in a number line. Again, I'm going to add, but I'm adding a negative number. So when I add a negative number, that tells me to go to the left on the number line. And so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places. And where do I end up? I end up at -7. Okay, so remember, same sign, add, and keep the sign. Okay, it's important. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about opposites. We talked about it in the first video. We're going to talk about it again. Here's the definition. Two numbers that are the same distance from 0, but on opposite sides of 0 are called opposites. That makes sense. So if I have, there we go, here's 0, and 0, 1, there's 1, 2, 3. And here is 1, 2, -3. And if I add these numbers together, okay, if I add these numbers together, I'm jumping all the way down here. When I add two numbers together, so -3 plus 3, I am always going to get 0. And we're going to talk about why down here when we talk about the additive inverse. Okay, so now let's talk about what happens when we add integers with different signs. So if I look at this problem, it says 8 plus -10. Those are different signs. This problem, -13 plus 17. And so this is a positive number, and this is a negative number. This is a negative number, and this is a positive number. So I'm adding integers with different signs. So here's the thing to think. If they have different signs, then subtract. And what am I going to subtract? I'm going to subtract absolute values. That's what I'm subtracting. And we talked about what absolute values were in the first section. So that's what I'm subtracting. And then I'm going to keep the sign of the bigger number. So this means I'm going to keep the sign of the number that has the larger absolute value. Okay? And we're going to do some examples in a moment after we learn the song. So we're going to practice this. So these are words, and some of you can read these words and understand them. Sometimes they confuse me, right? Sometimes they can be confusing. So I'm trying to give you a little tool, something to think about, all right? So same sign, add and keep. Different signs, subtract. Subtract the absolute values. And we'll go through, I'll show you that process when we work on a couple examples. Lastly, the additive inverse property says the sum of an integer and its additive inverse or opposite. So if I have an integer, the opposite is called an additive inverse. All right, and it says the sum of an integer and its additive inverse or opposite is 0. Okay, always. So here's a couple examples. 6 plus negative 6, they are opposites. They are the same distance from 0, and they're on opposite sides of 0. And when I add these together, I get 0. Here's two more, a negative number and a positive number. I add them together, I get 0. And then this is the algebra. This is the way it would look in algebra if I just use a variable. Okay, so how would you like to learn a song that kind of puts this all together? And I'm not a singer at all, so I apologize because I am going to sing. But if you have earmuffs or whatever, you can put those on right now. And we did this in class last year, where students got to volunteer and come up with a different way to sing the song. But here is the integer song. All right, and the way it goes, me, 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 me. Let me try this. Right, here's how we sing it. It goes like this. Same signs add and I'm not even singing. Here we go. Dun, 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 dun. Same signs add and keep. Different signs subtract. Keep the sign of the bigger number, then you'll be exact. Same signs add and keep. Different signs subtract. Keep the sign of the bigger number, then you'll be exact. All right. So this is a very helpful way to remember what to do when you are going to add integers. So let's apply this song and what I talked about above to some examples. All right. So I'm going to work out a couple. I'm going to leave one for you. All right. So the first thing we need to do when we see a problem is we need to know, do the integers have the same sign or different signs? So if I look at problem 1, I see that is a positive 7, that is a positive 13. So then I follow the first line in the song. Same signs, add and keep. So 7 plus 13 equals, whoops, that doesn't even look like an equal sign. Try that again. 7 plus 13 equals 20. Notice this is a positive number, this is a positive number, and your answer is a positive number. Okay? We could also use a number line if we wanted to look at this. We could say, well, here's 0, and let's say 7 is right here. And so I'm going to start at 7 and I want to add 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I end up way over here. All right, this is adding 13 units. And where do I end up? And I can count, and you will see that you end up at 20. Okay, so again, same sign, add and keep. So let me look at number 2. Again, same sign, add and keep. And what am I adding together? Well, what is the absolute value of negative 8? Because that's what I'm going to add. Same sign, add and keep. So the absolute value of negative 8 is 8. The absolute value of negative 5 is 5. So I'm going to add these two numbers together. 8 plus 5, whoops, sorry. 8 plus 5 equals 13. All right, so negative 8 plus negative 5, they have the same signs. Add their absolute values and keep the sign. Okay, negative 8 plus negative 5 is negative 13. And we could look at this on a number line as well. So I will be here. Let's say negative 8 is right there. And I want to add a negative 5. So since that's negative, I'm going to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places. And where do I end up? I end up at negative 13. Okay, so there you go. Same signs, add and keep. So I'm adding and keeping the sign of the two integers. So for number 3, you can go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to work this problem out and tell me what the answer is. Okay, so that is number 3, and hopefully you got the answer. The answer to this one would be negative 35. Same sign, so they're both negative, so my answer will be negative. All right, now let's go down here and let's look at adding these integers. And I notice on number 4 that these two integers have different signs. So the song says same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract. And remember what I wrote up here. What am I subtracting? I'm subtracting the absolute values. Okay, so I have the absolute value of negative 2, which equals 2. The absolute value of 11, which equals 11. And then I subtract. So 11 minus 2 equals 9. All right, so negative 2 plus 11 equals, so same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract. Keep the sign of the bigger number. So which absolute value was bigger? That one was. So I'm going to keep the sign of this number, which is positive. So my answer would be positive 9. All right. So there you go. And for number 5, what I want you to do is take a moment right now. I want you to write that problem down, and I want you to work that one out and see what you get. Okay, so the answer to this problem is 9 plus negative 10. And again, take the absolute values of these numbers. I get 9 and I get 10. I subtract 10 minus 9 equals 1. And 9 plus negative 10 equals, keep the sign of the bigger number. Which absolute value is bigger? This one is. So I keep the sign of the bigger number, which is negative. So that's going to be negative 1. There you go. And for number 6, when you see problems like this, one of the things you need to look at is, well, wait a second. These numbers are the same, except this one's negative, that one's positive. So these must be opposites. And what happens when we add opposites together? Remember, we have the sum of an integer and its additive inverse or opposite. So we could say this, the sum of an integer and its opposite is 0. So there you go. So this one already we know the answer to, 0. Okay, so that is 1.2. You're going to get a lot of practice on this adding integers. You need to become very proficient at it. Okay, you need to become really good at adding integers. All right, so that's all I have for today. Hopefully you feel comfortable adding integers and um, singing the song. Hopefully you can sing it better than I can because I don't have a singing voice. But don't forget, sing that song. All right. That's all I have for now. This is Mr. Odom, and I am out. Have a good day.